Recording in progress.
All right, so this is recording. Share the screen again. Okay. All right, so we are doing cron problems. Let me click on edit here. All right. So we were on problem 4. That's the last one that we did. So I'm going to do now additional problems. Example. So example 5. So the last one was the find command, right? So we did this one on Monday, the find command, specify in the root folder, root directory, and we provide the name with a wildcard, so all files with a .c extension, all C files. So this runs to find the find command at midnight and looks for C files. Now we're going to do a next example. So I'm going to continue to do the same thing. I will give you the command and you guys tell me what it is, okay? You guys can tell me what it is. So this is going to be 0, 4, asterisk, 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 sh. sh is a symbolic link to bash or dash. So the command line interpreter, but it is a symbolic link. When you guys take your security classes like 450, etc., software assurance, you will learn actually that this can be linked to bashes that are secure versus other ones that are less secure. And people exploit those vulnerabilities to achieve objectives. So this is really important from a security perspective. But anyway, so that a.sh, whenever something has a .sh extension, essentially it's like a bash file. So Python has a .py, bash has a .sh. As another type of scripting language. All right, so let's take a look at this one. So what is this one doing? So this one is running a shell script, right? So this is the command, run a shell script every day at what? So the first is minutes, the second one is hours. 4 a.m. 4 a.m. Exactly. Very good. So this one runs a shell script every day at 4 a.m. That's it. See that? All right. That's kind of what we're gonna do. Right. So we're gonna finish these up. I want to finish these notes so we can move on to a new topic next week. I also remind you this is week 4. This is week 4. So week 5 is next week, and then week 6 is exam 1. So make sure you're studying all these things for the exam, which will be a written exam, closed notes, but you're allowed a cheat sheet. Yeah. And then it'll be problems, essay type, or commands, or a script itself. All right. So let's do another example then. Example 6. Example 6. All right. So this is going to be 33, 1, asterisk, asterisk, Python, backup, .p. How about that one? What is that one doing? Yeah.
3:30 every other day.
3:30 a.m. So if you don't know what something means, you can always go back, remember, to this that I provided here. It's like the table. I can yeah, and so you can see you have minutes, hours, day of month, numeric day within a month from 1 to 31. So what is it then? First day of every month. Okay. So run script at 3:30 a.m. on the first day of each month, essentially. Right. So I'm going to write that down. Run script at 3:30 a.m. on the first day of each. Right. Yeah, exactly. So these are, all like that. So I have a few more. So let's do another one here. Example 7. All right. So let me see this one. 32 0,6. All right. How about this one? Yeah,
Run that shell script every.
exactly. Exactly. There you go. See, that's really powerful, right? Such a simple syntax, and you have so much power to do things. Exactly. So runs the script at 2:30, 2:30 a.m. On Sunday and Saturday. Just like that. There you go. All right. So now, yeah, so I'm going to continue with these, but I'm going to need to show you some additional commands, a new set of commands so that we can add them to these, right? So we're going to learn, so I'm going to take a break from cron for a sec, and instead I'm going to introduce a new set of commands called output handling, okay? So we're going to cover output handling, and we're just going to see how these work. These commands are a little bit confusing sometimes, but they can be very helpful, and they can make our cron entries more powerful when we start adding it. So I'm going to call this output handling. And they're just simple commands. So essentially, piping you already know about, right? So you know about that one. There's one for discarding, and there's going to be one for redirecting. Okay. So that's essentially what we're going to talk about. So output handling, some ideas. Say one, redirecting. 2, piping, which the pipe, and then discarding. Right, so these are things sometimes you want to run a command, but you don't want to see output of it. You just want it to run. So you discard the output, for instance. Right, redirecting, we've seen that already. And then piping, we know. But we're just going to study this a little bit more. Let me commit the changes here. Just want to see how that looks. Yeah, just 1, 2, 3. So that's good. All right, so let's take a look at the first one, redirecting, and how we can do that with an example. So redirecting to a file. Redirecting to a file. Okay. So the classic example of this is adding the following. So you have a command and then you add to it something that looks like this. Two, oops, two, like then, oh wait, let me make this big. 2 ampersand 1, and then file dot txt. Okay, guys, so that's something that you can do. So essentially, you have a process that's running, and these processes have two variables, 2 and 1. So one variable has an error, like keeps track of any errors that have happened, and the other one has the output. So they're like internal variables associated with processes. And so by adding this there, you're kind of saying, send that information. It's a way of grabbing that information and redirecting it somewhere, okay? So that's one thing you'll see sometimes, and it can be a little bit confusing. So what does the 2 and the 1? I just explained it, but let's just like, what do they mean, right? What's the meaning? So the two here refers to the second file descriptor of a process. And that's, which is standard error. This is really important because in the command prompt, you're passing things from one thing to the other, right? And you can think of the pipe as actually doing this. So the pipe essentially looks at that and just passes it to the. But these things have they have a definition. So it's gonna be, so the 2 refers to the second file descriptor of a process, right? Which is standard error. So it's the error of a process, if there is one, which there may not be. All right, and then this symbol is just gonna be redirection. So it means redirection. Oops. And so that may have created, let me put this in double quotes maybe, because that may be a symbol in GitHub itself. All right, and then the last one, the ampersand 1, this one is the output of the process, essentially, so standard out. So refers to the first file descriptor of a process, which is standard out. These are very important variables. Later on, we're going to see that even with Python, there's ways that we can grab these, right? We can put in the command pipeline a Python script. So when we're passing something, we pass it to Python, and Python grabs these variables, essentially. Make sense? So it's a nice little way of passing the information. All right, so standard out, the output of the process. So basically, when you have this symbol here, right, this here, it essentially is redirecting the standard out and standard error to somewhere, to some location, which could be a file, or it could be to dev null, which dev null is basically a way of discarding the information. And we will see that in a second. Okay, so let me just commit this to make sure that it copied correctly. All right, looks good. Right, so that was redirecting. Piping, you guys know what it is, I think, but I will do an example of discarding, as I think this one is also very useful. So discarding is essentially the same thing, but so I'm just going to copy this one. Okay, so the trick is instead of whenever you want to discard information, there's almost like a black hole in Linux where you can just send like a trash can or something. You just send something there and the operating system knows what to do with it. And all you have to do is instead of file, you redirect by using this symbol here and you send it to dev null. In the file system, dev just means devices, so that's where your devices are, and the null device is, like a black hole, an empty pit, and you just throw things away. Got it? So that's kind of discarding, essentially. So then we can use these now. You can see how whenever you're running a process, etc., these can be very useful for passing information or getting rid of the information. So those will become useful later. All right, so now let's go back to Cron. Let's do another entry. I'm going to do pound sign here. So pound sign. So let's go back to cron examples. And I think this would be problem 8 or example 8. Sample 8. Okay. Let me think about this one. $30, 11, 31, 12, and I'll make this a little bit bigger. All right. So what is that one doing? What do you guys think? Yeah, go ahead.
11:30 p.m. December. I'm not sure what the output.
So the command, so this is the whole command, right? If you look, there's a key thing here, bin. It means it's a process, like a program. Wall is the wall. It's like when you're on a server and you invoke wall, all the users will get a message. You're sending something to the wall. And you send a message, Happy New Year. So can you repeat it again?
So every December, 11 p.m. we will following.
Is that correct? So this one is meant to be a trick question. Pay close attention to that. Is it 11 p.m. or 11 a.m.? 11:30 a.m. So watch out for those. All right, but yeah. So that's the idea, okay? So but good, great job, right? So it runs the wall command at 11:30 a.m. So obviously to change it, what would you do? Like 23 or something, right? To be, yeah, right? So the wall command at 11:30 a.m. on December 31st. December 31st. So it runs the wall command at 11:30 a.m. on December 31st. Wishing everyone a happy New Year. Any questions? This one makes sense? All right, great. So I think I only have like a couple more of these. Um, let's take a look at another one. This one here. I'm going to call it example 9. So asterisk, asterisk, 1, oops, 1, 1. Okay. Oh, yeah, I guess they've always started with a number, so that's been. Let me do this because I think this got confused. I'm going to use the dollar sign or, yeah. Well, these are not command line things, but all right. So it was 2 asterisks. Okay, so it starts here. Asterisk, asterisk, 111 SHS. What is that one? Yes, sure. Go ahead. So, okay, let's see. So let's take a look at the table, right? So it's the last 3. So day of month, month, weekday, correct? So we've got day of the week is 1, day of month is 1, and month is 1, correct? That's what we have. So you said, what did you say? The first day of January on a Monday. So only when you have that situation. So how often would that happen that it's 1st of January and it's also a Monday? What do you guys think? It would happen maybe every 5 years? Does that seem reasonable? I'm not saying you're wrong, right? That's your interpretation of it. But you see how that's kind of what that would mean based on our logic currently. Do you agree? Yeah. So actually here we have an exception and it's a little bit different. So in this case, you could have done that, but then that's not very useful, right? So instead what they created is you have options where you can do or. Do you see that? So how would this be or now? So basically on January 1st or Monday. every Monday. You see that? So this one's tricky, right? So it's not very clear, but it's an example of what can happen. So so day of the week and day of the month are ORed in this one. So I'll write that down. Day of the week. And this happens a lot in Linux. Like Linux will have this, like everything works 95% of the time in a very consistent way or more. And then there's like that exception. We'll see exceptions to this. Set UID is another type of exception, like a workaround that had to be created. And this is kind of a good example of that. So day of the week and day of the month are ORed. All right, if both are filled in, the entry is run on that day of the week, is run on that day of the month, day of the month. And on matching day of the week. Okay, so that's basically how it happens. Therefore, this entry would run January 1st and every Monday. All right. So that one's a little bit tricky. I don't have that many that are tricky like this one, but this is a good example. Any questions? All right, good. So we're making good progress. We're getting through these cron entries. For that. All right, so we're almost there. So so we know how to add cron entries. All right, so now let's do just a few more where we will use some of those redirection commands. So let's take a look at this one here. So this is going to be example 10. All right. We're going to automate some serious things now. So I'm going to do 0, 1, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Bin sh var yim daily dot sh to 1 pipe mail root. So what's that one doing? See, now we're using everything, right? Redirection, pipe. So how does that one work? So here in this one, let's break it down into elements, right? So the command is bin sh, so we're running bash, so that's equivalent to like running Python, but running bash. This is a script, daily sh, that we're running from that folder. That script is it becomes a process, so it's going to do activities. Remember that process, when it's done, then it'll have standard error and standard out, the two variables that contain the output and also the error message. Do you see that? So we run it, and the results of it essentially are captured with this. And then what is this doing then? What are we doing there? Yeah, we're passing them. Currently, we would filter them if we had something like grep over here. But here what we're doing is we run this script, and the error and the output is redirected. And we redirect it through pipe to the next step. So this is the command prompt syntax or language, if you will. Does that make sense, guys? So every day you want to run this script on your server, and the output of it is redirected to the next statement. And what do you think this one is doing? Mail root. Mail is the mail facility of Linux. So essentially, it's going to send an email. You see that? So you can send an email. We'll do examples of email later in the semester of how to configure this service, and pretty interesting. So essentially, you've set up in Cron with this little one line. You run the script whenever you want it to. You get the output out of it, which is important information, I'm assuming, and you send it to yourself via email. So that way, every morning when you get, or actually you're at, possibly you're at home and you get an email and you're like, oh, wow, something happened. And that's it. All right. So what about this part then? We have to take a look at that one. So what does that mean? So it's, what is it? Minutes and hours, right? So which hour is that? 1? Yeah. 1 a.m. Exactly. So we're running this script at 1 a.m. and it's checking something, right? Every day, right? At 1 a.m. it's checking something, and the results are being emailed to you as the system administrator, and you're going to read them and decide what's going on. Got it? Everyone with me? All right. Great. So let me write that down. So run daily script every morning at 1 a.m. Okay. Right. So that's a nice one. So let's do a couple more. For example, 11, 0 to asterisk, asterisk, 1, bin, sh, var, adm, weekly, dot sh, 2, ampersand 1, pipe, mail, seat. What about this one? Yes.
Every Monday at 3 run the week shelf.
Yep, exactly right. Very good. So run weekly script every Monday at 2 a.m. and send results seed account. Yeah, that's it. All right. So that's a good one. And I could continue doing this. I mean, yeah, so all right, so that's all of them, right? Oh, I think that's pretty complete. You've looked at everything. There are some in terms of security things. Cron has a file somewhere where you can say cron allow, cron deny, and basically you can add users into that to say, okay, these users are maybe restricted from adding entries into cron, for instance. Okay, so you can do that. All right, so that completes that. We're almost done. So 122. Oh, okay, yeah. So the last thing we're gonna do today then is we're gonna do the Perl script from the lab. So you don't have that Perl script, right? So I need to give that to you. But essentially, you're gonna run from cron that Perl script every so often as the problem states, and you're gonna log some information. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the virtual machine for this one. And I'm just gonna cover the Perl script, and that will conclude our topic of cron, which is one of my favorites, honestly. So interesting and powerful, really. Next week, we are going to move on to the next topic, which I think is more networking related, right? With Linux. Okay, so how we can do, some Python, of course. And then that concludes like the first third of the semester, which is meant just to get you play with the OS, play with Python, play with Linux commands. Second third of the semester gets a little bit harder because we start looking at not one VM, but two VMs, at the same time. So like you'll have DNS, right? So then a DNS server, a DNS client. You have Hadoop. One machine controls the other one. So we start getting into that. Okay. So a few, of those. All right. So let's go ahead then. And this is, I already committed these changes. So that's all the examples for cron. Now let's go to the virtual machine over here. Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to restart it. But really, we're just going to go over a Perl script. I'll show you how it's very straightforward. I'll show you how to run it, and then you guys can use that for the assignment. Perl is, I think I've mentioned this before, it's not my favorite scripting language. We're not going to do that many Perl scripts, but you may come across Perl, at some point, and you should have at least a sense that there are several scripting languages out there. It's one of the old ones. I have seen books on system administration written entirely in Perl, right? But these are old ones because this was a very popular language some time ago. Obviously, in Bash and I would say in Python are go-to languages. All right, so and all right, so we're here. So we're just gonna create a script. It should be pretty short. I'm gonna navigate to L desktop. Here. I'm gonna go into course folder. Okay. Wait. I'm still gonna use basic. Dash L. All right, so let's create, this is gonna be a Perl script. You can still use nano. The extension, these extensions don't matter, right? So you guys realize that's why there's the shebang. The shebang is actually what matters. But to distinguish what something is, you do want to use extensions. So I'm gonna call this one log RC or something, PL. Okay? And PL just for Perl. Okay. So we're gonna go in here, we're gonna look at the syntax of Perl briefly. And that's essentially it. So I will add the shebang. So it should be user, maybe bin, Perl, or if not, the one like in Python environment. Okay. Then, the structure is basically it's got some libraries or commands that you add in there. And then we're going to instantiate sys. It's got this sys equivalent for the operating system or the system. And we're going to tell it that we want to interact with syslog. Syslog is a daemon, like a process that's running in the background for logging. So we are actually going to try to log into the official logging system of Unix, okay, if that makes sense. So we're going to look for an entry in there. So I'm going to type in use strict first, and this is the syntax for it. And I guess I realize it doesn't look great. So use strict and then semicolon. That's these are time checks during compile time. So gives you information. Then use warnings. Same thing, warnings with an S. And that is enable runtime warnings in case there's anything going on. It provides that information. Then we're going to say use sys colon, and from sys, we want to interact with syslog. As I said, syslog is a process and just like Apache exists, right, for web, or bind, as we will learn later on for DNS, syslog is for logging. All right, and then we can say this is going to be our library for syslog functions. So we're just going to say QW parentheses colon default, and we're going to set a log, a socket. So set log sock semicolon. All right, so that's kind of like the first line. So you can see not as nice as Python, right? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's the syntax of it. I'm pretty sure. That's a good question. It may be lowercase. If not, we'll change it. I don't like that they're like this. I don't know how to make it. I can change it. Can you guys see it better like this though? Yeah, better. All right. Yeah. All right. So there we go. So that's the library. And then after that, we're just going to set a domain socket for Unix. So we're going to set log sock. And we're going to say Unix semicolon. And then that should be it. Now we establish like the library, establish the communication socket, and now we can just send commands to syslog. So first we're going to register ourselves just to say who we are that's sending this message. So I'm going to do open log. We're going to say that our program is called logger.pl. And then we're going to provide our process ID, PID, and we're going to say user. Okay. So this is just like information that's going to be in that entry saying who we are. And then basically we're just going to provide the data that we want to send. So this is going to be syslog info, and then add something that's easy to find. So for instance, the university, right? So Purdue University, because we need to find this in a log file. So University Northwest, parentheses, and then and we're done. All we have to do now is close the socket. So we're going to say close log. That's it. So if I've done this correctly, this should run, and we should record something in the log files. Does that make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
Look. Getting. One.
Yes. Good eye. Good eye. Thank you. Whoops. Good eye. Yep. You're right. All right. So let's try it. So in this case, it should be something like Perl log rc.pl. Okay. It ran, no errors, right? No errors. So now we want to find this entry in the log files of syslog. So we're going to go to cd var ls-l. So we should have log in there. So let's go to log. Okay. Clear ls-l. Lots of files there, right? So there's a file in here called syslog. So let's see if it was logged in there. So let's take a look at cat syslog. A lot of data. So it's impossible to find. No. But you guys know some tricks, right? So what tricks do you know? You can do this and then pipe rep Purdue. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Okay, no matches. All right. So we have to figure this out. But that's essentially the idea. So grab Purdue. I'm pretty sure I wrote it like that. So let's run it again. No matches. Clear ls. Is there another file? So there's another log file in there called messages. Let's see if it went to that one. How many? Well, it's not that many actually. We can take a look to, it's not in here, not in these, because these are logs for various other things. And well, there's this syslog actually. So this one should have been. Let me see if there's some messages in here. Nope. Nope. So it's got to be in syslog actually. It's not there. CD desktop. L. The ITS 372 spring 2025. Clear. L. CD basics. Clear. L. All right, so my script is that one. Let me see if I can figure this out. Let me try this uppercase. That may error out, but just want to try it. Okay, so use via can't locate object. Yeah, so it's got to be lowercase. All right. Use strict semicolon. Use warning semicolon. Use syslog QW default setlog socket. Setlog socket Unix. Open log logger PID. Syslog info, Purdue University Northwest. Close log. Yeah, that's what I have. Just gonna run this a whole bunch of times. All right. Clear. Oh, there it is. So there's the entry actually. So it is logging, right? So it's the grep that's not, I didn't do that right. But you can see, okay, so we know for sure it is writing to the syslog file, right? That's right there, all the entries. Why did grep now? I just did cat syslog, and then I was trying to redirect that data into grep and have grep just find the text that has that, but no such file or direct grep. I'm gonna have to think about that one, or I'll let you guys think about it for a little bit. All right, I'm going to stop the session here.